So number 6, it's not the fact that you were missing the x that made it difficult. The thing that made it difficult is when you solve for x, you get another radical. Guys, let's focus. So we understood before that since it was in quadrant 3, that meant my signs were negative, negative. So I just did x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Don't ever worry about negatives. They always go away when we're squaring them. And the square and the square root cancel each other out. It just means that's not a nice, pretty thing to try to factor. If I have an even number, I usually try to see if 4 will go into it. And if 4 doesn't go into it, I do 2, and then hope the other number is a perfect square. So 4 went into this 19 times, so that was 2 root 19. Then I just used my sine is y over r, cosine is x over r, and the tangent, that was the doozy. That's the one I didn't like, was y over x. So that one was a little bit messy to simplify. So take a look at those simplifications. Make sure your radicals are okay, because that is the hardest part of this. I'd be happy to work any of those out longhand if you need to see them. The cotangent is 2 root 95 over 5. I get it. They're ugly. But I'm never going to ask you, or I don't think I'm going to ask you, to multiply 37 times 41. 5 times single digit, double digit, that's okay. And even double digits, like if it goes up to 12 or 13, okay. But I'm never going to try to, I'm not trying to mess you up on your multiplication. All right? Okay. I'm going to be giving you your homework / classwork, but there's a couple of problems that I'm going to ask to go through first, and we're going to be looking at the classwork side of things. The classwork side of things is pretty straightforward, but I want to make sure that you understand when I give you stuff like this, what it's talking about, because we haven't really had any questions like that. And then we'll talk about making sure we understand how that affects 7 through 10. Here we go. Let me go pass these out. And I wasn't recording that, so I'm going to say it again. Number 2 is the hard stuff. Just find the radius for me, please. How do you find the radius? How do you find a radius? Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. X squared plus y squared equals z squared. Or r squared. You got the fraction part right. I don't know what that means, because it's all a fraction. Okay, well, let's see what we did. First thing, setting up the Pythagorean theorem. Hopefully that was okay. See what I've got there? Just said x squared plus y squared equals r squared. What is 1/2 squared? 1/4. What is 1/4 squared? So that means I'm here. But in order to add them, I need common denominator. What would the common denominator be? So that's going to be 4 over 6. He's so excited right now. It would be 4 over 16. So now I can add them. What would you have? 5 over 16. Now, in order to solve this, we would have to take the square root of both sides. Square root of 5, I can't do. But what is the square root of 16? So the answer there is root 5 over 4. Okay, this is actually something that would be harder to do had you tried to turn it into decimals. It would have been like, what? You don't want to do that. And even if you did it on your calculator, you wouldn't get the simplified radical form, which doesn't help you that much. That means that you should have for number 2 what your radius is. Hopefully that means the rest of that problem will go a little bit simpler. The next thing I want to make sure that we're okay on is this. 4, 5, and 6. Number 4, what they're trying to do is determine the quadrant in which the angle lies. So if I have my quadrants, I have my all students take calculus. This is saying that sine is greater than 0. If sine is greater than 0, is that positive or negative? Positive. Which quadrants have positive signs? A and S, 1 and 2. So that means that is out of the running. The next thing it says that cosine is less than 0. That means cosine has to be negative. Which of these two have a negative cosine? So which quadrant is that angle in? 2. It's not that bad. It's just being able to kind of approach it from the right angle. Trig, angles. Trig's my dog. No? Irritating? Okay. Same thing with the next one. We have all students take calculus. Cosine here is positive. Where is cosine positive? 1 and 4. So these are where my two options lie now. Where is tangent positive? So what quadrant are you in for 5? Now, number 6 says secant. That doesn't really show up in my all students take calculus. What does secant pair up with? Cosine. So you can think about this as a negative cosine and a positive sine. Okay? Yes, it would be a negative cosine. Yeah. And then for this is again, it's the same thing, just written in a slightly different way. This says the sine is 12 over 13, and it tells me what quadrant I'm in. By the way, that E means in. Sine is what over what? Let's think in terms of what we're doing right now. Y over R. So that means sine is 12. R is 13. In quadrant 2, all of my coordinates have what signs? Negative, positive. Your radius is always a positive value. Can you figure out what x is going to be? Negative 5, because that's one of your Pythagorean triples. Then you would be able to go through and answer the rest of these questions. Same thing about number 8. 8 gives me cosine of an angle is 3 over 5. Cosine is what over what? X over R. So what would my y be? Why are you saying negative 4? Very nice, because it says it's in quadrant 4. And then you would just work out all of the problems. What I want you to see here is the fact that I may be writing these things differently, but it's all asking the same concept. Okay? Same concept for all of this. So I want you guys to take the rest of Flex, and I want you to finish these 10 problems for me. Or do as many of them as you can. What time is Flex over at? 21? So we should be able to get through a good number of those, considering the fact that we've done the hardest part on several of them already. Okay, so go ahead and get working.